People had an image of Middlesbrough, and Derson Park didn't change that image. And we needed to have a bright new start. I thought it was very important. We needed to raise the profile of the club. And the stadium helped do that, and it certainly helped. It was one of the main factors in attracting Brian Robson here. And with Brian in the stadium, it gave us a momentum that enabled us to attract Juninho and others, and it gave the club real momentum.
The opening game was against Chelsea, a 2-0 win, Craig Hignett getting the first goal, of course. What are your memories of that day?
Well, I remember quite a bit about it. It was, we built a stadium, something incredible, like 40 weeks. So it was a very intense time, and I remember my daughter was mascot on the day, and I think she was about, well, she was 5 or 6 at the time. And you just hope that everything went well, and it did. And to cap it all, we beat Chelsea 2-0.
Overall, in the decade, Juninho was voted by the fans as the #1 player of the 10 years. How would you assess the impact Juninho made on Middlesbrough Football Club?
Well, again, if he was a tremendous player and a great character, and he probably put the club on the world stage. And to have a player of his quality, a Brazilian international, to be able to attract him to Middlesbrough, again, it made people sit up and take notice, and it raised the status of the club enormously.
And so we move on. Season 96-97 is still remembered by the supporters for all of the roller coaster ride of emotions. Emerson, Juninho, Ravanelli. For you, how was that season?
It was a season of unfulfilled promise. We all know about the performance of Emerson off the pitch. Ravanelli was a very difficult character, a very difficult man, and he wasn't on the pitch. He was the kind of footballer that you wanted, but off the pitch he wasn't the kind of man that you wanted at your football club. And I've read with some amusement of his comments about one day coming back to manage Middlesbrough, but the teas will freeze over before that happens. There is no chance. But that season, the supporters have a selective memory, because we did have some fantastic football games in, but the majority of the games, especially away from home, just didn't give us the return on points that we wanted.
But we did get to Wembley for the first time in a major trophy that season. How proud were you to see your club at the Twin Towers?
It was great to be there, but there was the threat of relegation, and the threat of relegation gave everything an edge. And I remember going there against Leicester in the League Cup final and thinking, you know, it's one of those situations where if we win this, we could win it all. And equally, we could end up with nothing. And to be 1-0 up, it was the 88th minute. We all know the story, but we thought we were there. And we'd actually played very, very well in extra time, probably deserved a second rather than deserving the equaliser. And it was just a very numb feeling immediately after the game, and I thought, we're going to have a great problem here, raising this group of players. It had been a torturous month. I think we had something like 8 games in 24 days, and the games itself were tiring, but the amount of travelling that we had to undertake to get to and from the games meant that the players were really playing an 8 o'clock game, finishing at 10, 11 o'clock. By the time they'd bathed and eaten, it was midnight, and we had a 4 or 5 hour journey down to London to prepare for a game the day after next. And I just thought, we're in trouble here.
Following year, bounce back. How crucial was that?
We knew that some of the players would want to leave, and it was a very important year for Juninho in the World Cup. We knew that Emerson wanted to go, and Ravanelli was just a lot of trouble behind the scenes. So we knew we were going to lose them 3 players. And Brian was very logical in his approach to it, and he said, look, we need a different team in the First Division. This is what I want. I need somebody who's going to get me 20 goals. I need somebody who's going to provide me with 20 goal assists. And it was Paul Merson was right at the top of the queue. So bringing Paul Merson here was a great credit to Brian Robson, and Paul Merson had a fantastic year for us.
How would you assess the impact Brian Robson had on Middlesbrough Football Club?
He was immense. A man of great charisma. People say to me, that when they see him on the telly, he must be a very dour personality. But anybody who knows Brian knows that that's the last thing you'd call Brian Robson, dour. But we had a group of individuals in Brian and Viv who complemented each other, Gordon McQueen of course, who complemented each other very well. And people tend to look at Brian's reign on that last year when it perhaps went a bit wrong. But before that, we'd had 6 tremendous years under his leadership. And he took the status of the club. Remember that we'd had average gates of 8,000–9,000 under Lenny Lawrence. And that isn't being disrespectful to Lenny. It was the circumstances of the club at the time. And Brian Robson brought this wave of optimism and expectancy, and it worked.
2004, Carling Cup final. No Borough fan will ever forget it. How big a day was it for you?
It was. We knew that having disappointed the fans in the previous cup finals, that this was one we had to win. And so it was a day of nerves. And I remember as the game progressed, Keith Lamb said to me, "We're 2-0 up, it's too early." And I can't tell you my expression, but it was, "Don't be silly, Keith, I'd have taken 2-0 after 5 minutes any day of the week." And he said, "Yeah, you're right." And as the game progressed, even when we went to 2-1, I was quite relaxed, and I just thought, no, today's our day. It felt like it was going to be our day. The fans felt it was going to be our day. The players looked like it was going to be our day, and so it turned out. And when the final whistle went, it was a very special moment for everyone connected with the club.
Steve McLaren, how much has he changed the football club?
Steve, football always evolves and progresses, and sometimes you just have to freshen things up and change things. And Steve, when I first spoke to him, he made me think, and he had a lot of fresh ideas and good ideas, but his eye for detail was immense. And I remember thinking, yeah, this is the guy I want to go with. And I knew what I wanted to see. I knew what I wanted to see from him, but I got more from him. And the detail that he brought to the club, the expertise in coaching. And when we talk about Steve McLaren, it's no accident that he's so much in demand. And it's actually worked against Steve. Whenever somebody perceives a big club as needing a big manager, Steve's linked to it. And what you read in the press is very seldom accurate. There may be a bit of smoke, but there's sometimes not any fire. And with Steve, he has been associated because of what he achieved at Derby, what he achieved at Man United, what he's achieved with England, and what he's achieved at Middlesbrough. He's common currency, and he gets associated with a lot of big clubs. And sometimes our fans see that as being disloyal. Steve has signed a new contract this year, which will keep him here for another 4 years. So his commitment to this football club will have been 8 years at the end of it, and that is very rare in modern football to keep a manager at a club for that length of time.
Will the next decade be as exciting?
As I said, we want to move on. What we've achieved is now history. Yes, we've got into Europe. Yes, we're establishing the Premiership. Yes, we've won our first trophy. We want more than that in the next 10 years.